Wukong is everywhere because it's just everywhere, quite literally. So it broke the concurrent player record for a single player game. It's this now the second highest concurrent player record ever at 2.4 million plus. So that's pretty high. The only game that is higher is PUBG, which should be noted that PUBG actually has had quite a bit of success in China as well, which is probably why that one got as high as it has. Also, that one's a live service, but and multiplayer. But now also Steam has broken the record for most concurrent users with now it is which is up to 37 plus million and probably likely because of Wukong. So if like for me that was seemed a little bit odd. I was like, are just more people playing games that weren't playing games before? Why the sudden influx of gamers? But as Korean pointed out, a lot of people in China play on Tencent, which they have their launcher. I can't find it. I've been trying to see what kind of games they have on there, and I was wondering if maybe Wukong isn't on it. It seems they do have predominantly mobile style games, so like smaller games. So I don't know, maybe Wukong's not available there. Maybe it's the only way to play it is on Steam, which is why so many people are getting on Steam. But yeah, it's just boosted the numbers of Steam super, super, super high. And as a result, PS5s are selling out in China. So China's having a trouble finding PS5s now. And related to news to that, the Japanese price of the PS5 has gone up by about $90 USD. That's probably most likely due to the yen falling. There's rapid inflation in Japan, and so that's probably why it's become so much more expensive there. But it does have some Japanese people worried because the biggest market for China's PS5s, when China's stock runs out, people typically buy them from Japan. So that is likely increasing demand in Japan as well. So that's worrying some Japanese people about the price going even higher on the secondhand market, which could be crazy. We saw how these things went with the original PS5 and the Xbox Series X scalping and all that. So that could be a problem going forward. And speaking of the Series X, it turns out that the reason the game is not on the Series X is because of a memory leak issue. If you don't know what a memory leak issue is, that's when basically a computer has its hard drive, which is typically ROM, read only memory, and then you have RAM, which is your random access memory, which is what your computer allows to process things. And when you have a memory leak issue, what's happening is you're uploading something into the RAM and then you're not deleting it. So then that space is being occupied, and then your available RAM gets smaller and smaller. So your computer is having to work harder and harder to process things. And apparently, this is an issue with Black Myth Wukong, is that it's not super optimized in that regard. And the Xbox Series S simply just had a memory leak issue to the point where it just couldn't run anymore. Apparently, that issue is also present on the PS5 and on the PC, but most PCs and the PS5 have enough RAM to get around it. The Xbox Series X also could get around it, but because Microsoft wants parity on the X and the S, since the S cannot get around it, then that's why it's not released on the Xbox. So there is a plan for it to come to Xbox. It will be coming eventually, but after they get that issue resolved. So there is plans for that on Xbox. It's not a PlayStation exclusive. But speaking about exclusivity and PlayStation, probably most people don't know this, but here in Taiwan, you cannot play Black Myth Wukong on the PlayStation. It's not available on PlayStation 5. And on Twitter, it's been used by pro CCP individuals. And they're saying that it's been censored, it's been banned in Taiwan. This is government censorship and that sort of thing. Turns out that's not the case. It was originally reported that the issue was with game science. And what happened was when you submit a game to the review board, and here in Taiwan, probably in most countries, I would assume as well, you need to submit, each version needs to be submitted individually. If you've seen some games, there was a game I remember a while ago. I don't remember what the name of it was, but you were playing as I believe he was like a serial killer or something like that. And there was a part where you remove your sister's face. In the PS5 version, it was simply a cutscene. And I believe it was possibly the Xbox and the PC version, they actually had you play that segment. And so obviously, different versions, one might be rated much higher. Having access to that scene would be rated much higher than making it simply a short cutscene or even fade to black, which would make it which could lower the rating. So because each individual version might be different, each individual version needs to be rated individually. And it was a take a shot every time he says the word individual. But they So originally, it was reported that Game Science submitted the PC version, but not the PlayStation version, and because of that, the PlayStation version was not rated in time and therefore was pending. The PlayStation website did have did have the game listed. It said it was set to release on August 20th. August 20th came by, August 21st, August 22nd came by. The game still wasn't available, so they took the page down. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, this is censorship. They're banning the game. That's why it was taken down." But the next day, it was put back up. Now the release date has been set to be determined. So there is no exact date on when it's coming back. But on August 26th, another article came out saying that the issue might have actually been on Taiwan's side, not on the Game Science side, where the game was registered by a Taiwanese company that was supposed to gather all the documentation and everything. The documentation they need is an agency contract, agency operations statement, description of corporate information, and a server flow test report. So all those were compiled. The game was registered, so it was added to the PlayStation Store list for to be wishlisted. And that company didn't submit the documentation in time. So it might have been on the Taiwanese side. But the point is, the game is available in Taiwan on Steam. So you can play it on Steam in Taiwan. And it will be available on PlayStation once all this documentation passes through. It is currently listed. You can wish list it. So it is here. It's not banned. So don't worry about that. But originally it was saying for the ratings board, that should take about a week. But now they're saying that because of all this documentation, it should be available within a month. Sometime between now and maybe September 20th or so, we should be seeing the game going live on PlayStation. There is a bit of drama behind it. A lot of people are really enjoying it. I saw somewhere where it said like 88% of the players are in China, so this is a huge game. This is something that I personally think people need to be a little bit not wary, but aware of because this is one of those things where we've seen in the past where the Western markets are looking at China and they're like, oh, we're going to make a lot of money off of this. And it just hasn't panned out. We've seen a lot of companies that have been shutting down in China recently. So I do see where somebody could look at this and be like, oh my God, this is great. Let's make more Chinese centric games. But you do have to keep in mind that this is a homegrown game. So there is a lot of national pride behind it as well. So it is going to be harder for Western devs to find that same success. You can find success, but it's going to be really hard for basically any game to find this same level of success again anytime soon.